portion of the meeting. It is just after 3 o'clock. This is for the Tommasino Compatible Growth Area Hardship Waiver on 88 Woodland Avenue in Manorville. I will start by reading the notice of public hearing. Pursuant to New York State Environmental Conservation Law, Article 57, Section 570121, paren 9, and the Central Pine Barrens Comprehensive Land Use Plan, notice is hereby given that the Central Pine Barrens Joint Planning and Policy Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, July 20th, 2022, on the matter of an application for compatible growth area hardship exemption. The name of the project is Tommasino Compatible Growth Area Hardship Waiver Application. The owner applicant is Desiree Tommasino. The project site location is 88 Woodland Avenue, Manorville, Town of Brookhaven. The project site, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 200-558-2-23.3. The project description is a request for a compatible growth area hardship waiver of the comprehensive land use plan standard for vegetation clearance limits. The proposal is to clear 10% of the existing natural vegetation on a 2.37 acre project site, where 35% is presently cleared and allowed, and for a total of 45% or 1.07 acres, leaving 55% or 1.3 acres to remain natural. The proposal is classified as an unlisted action pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and a coordinated review was performed, and said hearing may be adjourned from time to time as necessary. And then it goes further to say a public hearing will be held in person and remotely via Zoom at 3 p.m. on July 20th, 2022 at Riverhead Town Hall, 200 Howe Avenue, Riverhead, New York, and the application and Zoom meeting link are posted on the website. And it also notifies that the copy of the application is available at the Commission's office at 624 Old Riverhead Road, County Route 131 in West Hampton Beach for viewing. I'd like to start off by asking the members and the representatives to state their name and who they are representing for the record, please. Do we want to start with the board here? We'll start with the board present, and then we'll move to the commission members and reps that are on the Zoom participating virtually.
Andy Freeling representing Suffolk County Executive Steve Malone.
Good afternoon, Marty Shea representing Southampton Town Supervisor Jay Schneiderman.
Yvette Aguiar, Riverhead Town Supervisor.
Dan McCormick on behalf of Riverhead.
Janice Scherer, designated representative for the town of Southampton.
Ed Romaine, Supervisor, Town of Brookhaven.
Dorian?
Yep, Dorian. Yep, hold on a second. Where's my mute here? Hold on. 1 second. You can't hear me. I can't find my mute button. It's disappeared.
You're good, Dorian.
I am on. Okay, wonderful. Dorian Dale, belatedly representing Suffolk County Executive Steve Malone.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we will start off by hearing a brief presentation by Ms. Hargrave that will provide an overview of the project, the staff report and exhibits. Then we will hear from the applicant and finally open it to the public to speak. Ms. Hargrave.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So just to go through the staff report, I handed out the staff report. It was also in the package. The only thing I changed today was the hearing date, since it was adjourned from the last meeting in June. So that's the only thing that's changed. The report is the same and the exhibits are the same. I will have 3 additional exhibits to add. I'll explain those in a minute. But just to go over the project a little again, this is in Leonardville, in the town of Brookhaven, in the area, Woodland Avenue, about to the project site, where the project site is, south of it for about a half a mile. This road is undeveloped, so this is, I think, a newly developed. This road is being developed over time, so it's not completely developed. There's some vacant lots around. There's a large area of woodlands, but this is a 2.3-acre site that was part of a town of Brookhaven ZBA approved full lot subdivision in 2016. There might be a typo that it's 2019, but it was 2016 decision. And that decision placed clearing restrictions on the four lots of 35%. This is in the 2-acre residential zoning district, and the clearing limit is 35% for a development project in that zoning district. So this applicant, again, would like to clear beyond the 35% to 45%, so an additional 10%. The rear part of this site is entirely wooded. 35% is presently cleared right now for the residents and a barn on the property. And this additional structure would be a second accessory structure or a structure that would be on the property for the use of equine assisted psychotherapy and personal development specialist. That is the owner's profession, and the owner has said would be for their private.
You're speaking on my
Oh, sorry. I think we turned it off because it was
Oh, okay, that's what he's asking for.
very, it was giving an appearance.
Yeah.
I'll try to speak louder.
It says it's not. Okay.
Oh, so the owner is planning to use this for their private personal use, not for a commercial use. That would require at least 10 acres from our understanding. It would require a zone change to be used as a commercial facility. So again, this just going through the staff report, this is development, an increase in the intensity of use. It would exceed the clearing limit that was placed on the project when it was approved as subject, and the covenant that was filed. You can see from the aerial that, again, much of the site is wooded, and we have, I'll give you the additional exhibits in a minute, but the surrounding land use is residential, low density in general in character, and there's the sand mine to the east, the large sparrow sand mine. There's agricultural uses in this area, and again, sort of an area that is becoming more developed, but there are parcels that are still vacant, wooded. The road is not built out south of this property for about a half a mile, and that's generally the character of the area. The application is deficient in terms of providing responses to other standards that the project has to conform with, the plan. They did provide information, obviously, on the clearing, speaking to the clearing standard, and that 55% of the site would remain natural, about 1.3 acres after this project, and again, 45% would be cleared. As far as the hardship criteria, they do not provide financial information or much information other than this. Again, they would be seeking to clear another 10% for this use, and that was about as much as was provided. So maybe today they'll provide more information on the hardship criteria. And just getting to the questions at the end, the project applicant needs to address some of the hardship criteria and if there are other standards that are being met or not. And we had a question about Woodland Avenue, if that is a town road or if this is a private road. if this is the minimum relief necessary, if they plan on having any other facilities at this property, and additional plans, and if it's, and then as far as, this is a pretty new subdivision, so even the town, what we have learned from the county clerk's office had, even some, they called us about questions about this subdivision, about whether the underlying lots, the subdivision map was filed and how the lots were, this is such a new lot, it's not even showing up in the tax map. Essentially. So there are questions about, making sure, we would want to make sure that the subdivision is filed correctly. These lots have changed over time since the Pine Barrens Act, at least once before, and this appears to be at least a second reconfiguration of the lots in this area. And then as far as the additional exhibits, so it would be exhibits J, K, and L. We did receive the letter from the State Historic Preservation Office. There was no impact expressed for impacts to cultural resources. And then 2 letters from the DEC for the lead agency coordination. One was from the Natural Heritage Program, and they expressed that this is northern long-eared bat habitat, and concerns about the removal of potential roost trees, and they will need to contact the DEC for more information on that. That's a threatened species by New York State and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and it's a federally listed species as well. And so I would like to add those letters.
Julie, I just have some questions regarding the survey in the packet
Yes.
that shows the location for the planned horse arena. Is this survey current with regards to existing clearing? It's not, you had mentioned there's a barn on the property, it's not showing the barn. And I guess my question is whether or not there you see a tight clearing envelope around the existing residence. Does the actual clearing right now extend all the way to that proposed horse arena location, or is the horse arena being sited back in the woods? So you'd have to create an access path to get to that arena.
Okay, I asked that same question about the survey because the survey didn't seem to be up to date. I think it even said it was only cleared the lot to 15%, but the applicant assured me that actually they have cleared to 35%. They just didn't update the survey. They were pursuing this project and then want to do it twice. So the survey is not up to date, and the barn is not on the survey, and this structure would be going back into the woods further back.
So the actual clearing right now doesn't extend all the way to that proposed horse arena location. It's clearing is separated by existing woods, and if there is more expansive clearing, what is that cleared area being utilized for? You mentioned the barn. I'm not sure as to what the size of the barn is.
Yeah, maybe they can provide information on the barn. There are pictures in the, I didn't go on the property, but from the road, you can see the barn in the exhibit of the photographs. Behind the house is the barn. The applicant can say how large it is and what it's used for. That, and if that will be, I guess if it will remain in addition to this new behind facility as well.
My question relates to, and I guess the applicant can speak to it, as to whether or not they're taking full advantage of the existing clearing in proposing this arena, but without an up-to-date survey, it's difficult to know.
Yeah, I mean, if the existing barn could be converted to this use that they're proposing rather than proposing a second structure, kind of, what were you saying?
Also, Julie, do we know if this proposed activity is a permitted use within Brookhaven's A Residence 2? Have they achieved site plan or subdivision approval, and or are they seeking a variance from Brookhaven ZBA on this activity?
They have not gotten the permits from the town yet because the town, I believe when they went to the town said, this structure will exceed the clearing limit, your covenant on your property, and you have to go to the Pine Barrens Commission and then come back. So they have not obtained those permits. I think if this is an accessory use, for personal use, I think it is permitted. They will probably need approvals, permits, site plan, or some kind of building permit at a minimum.
Right.
But if it was for commercial use, that would be a whole different story.
Okay. And regarding, if you could elaborate on the personal use aspect. So when we say personal use, are we understanding that it's only going to be used by the occupants of the home, or a third party is going to be brought to the location? What appears to be a very laudable goal here, right? It looks like a very, very worthwhile and wonderful purpose as I read the application. But I just want.
should probably say that on the record.
Understood, but I just want to know from Julie what kind of information she has
Yeah,
that
that's a
addresses that.
question. I mean, if this is for personal use, to what extent can they do this work on their own without anyone else? Not knowing all of the specifics about this kind of therapy. I'm not sure if they'll be bringing in anyone who doesn't live there to use this property, and that could cause an issue. It's a residential area, it's zone residential, and we have asked that question as well, if this will be used for a commercial equine facility. That is really going to be a whole different application.
Okay, thank you.
We now will have the opportunity to hear from the applicant, Ms. Tommasino. If you could please come up and could she please be sworn in?
So before we do that, why don't we just do some housekeeping and get all of our exhibits marked
Oh,
so
okay.
that we have that in the record, and while you approach, we'll do that. So Julie is
I can just
doing
take
something.
permission.
So we're gonna we'll just mark it exhibit 1.
I already did it, that's J. Sorry, was that wrong? JKL.
Okay, so where's the original hearing, staff report and exhibits A through K? Okay, so that will be commission exhibit 1.
This is one.
And then it has, and then when you're done. And then we'll go back on the record. Thank you. So I just want to note that Commission Exhibit 1, which will be the only exhibit from the commission, is a staff report, Central Pine Barrens Joint Planning Policy Commission for the commission meeting of July 20th, 2022. Project name is Desiree Tommasino, compatible hardship application. And that staff exhibit is marked as 1, and it has exhibits attached to it, A through J. Julie?
No.
A through L. Thank you very much. We're good. Thank you. And then we're going to swear her in, and then we'll get to that. Or, and Mr. Tommasino as well.
We're newly married.
Do you both swear that the testimony you're about to give under oath will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. How's everyone doing today? Thank you for having us here. I can answer some of those questions that you guys had. I will start with this gentleman's. I'm sorry, I didn't hear your name before. We did get a new survey done last week because we were in the process of building our barn that we got the permits through the town of Brookhaven. And the new survey will be available next week or within the week.
It was final survey.
It was a final survey, and it does show our barn and how much we've cleared on it. We're waiting to hear from the town further as far as that project goes. This project that we're presenting to you is to put an arena behind the barn so that I can practice what I'm certified in with my horses. It only pertains to me and a mental therapist to be in the arena with the horses to practice. I do work at other facilities and other barns, so therefore I trailer my horses in and out and where I need to go. It does benefit the community because I'm sure we're all aware with COVID-19 and everything, there is a mental health crisis. So this is basically doing behavioral therapy with horses with a mental therapist and myself as the equine specialist. It's my job to read the horses, and it's the mental therapist's job to interpret the person, and that's how that's run.
Okay. Will the arena be enclosed or open?
Open. We want to leave as much land and the pine barrens as we can. So we're not looking to enclose anything. We're looking to leave it an open arena.
So that speaks to a seasonal use then, right? Because obviously you're not going to use it in open
I still
scenario.
practice in the winter every once in a
Okay.
while when it's not snowy and icy.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. Please continue.
Is there anything else I can answer for you?
Just in terms of what assurances do we have that you won't then take on private clients there at your, is there something that you would provide to us in terms of
What kind of assurance are you looking for? Just because there's-
assurance? Meaning,
Assurance, I'm
yeah, I don't know, we have some type of, I don't know what's appropriate legally, but what assurance is it that, maybe 2 years from now, it's easier to just bring clients in? That's the kind of thing, we just want to know, like,
I
how do we-
understand. I mean, I'm pretty respectful of my neighbors. I know everybody that lives over there. The neighbor next to me I went to high school with, and the neighbor next to us is a retired plumber, and they'll tell you, like, we all get along. There's never any issues, so we wouldn't really be looking to bring in clients and wreck their territory or deal with any of the animals that we have in the back, like deer or, we don't want to disturb any of that. We're very happy in Manorville. We moved out there because of the space and the animals and everything. We don't like to live very close to the suburbs in the city, so we want to keep it as fit as we can, like the same.
Okay. With your status in Brookhaven, are you seeking a site plan approval or a variance from Brookhaven ZBA?
Also, that was the other thing, to go back to what you had asked before, right, about town of Brookhaven. So we went to the town of Brookhaven originally and had asked the town of Brookhaven, what do we have to do to get this permit to clear further? And Brookhaven unfortunately pointed us back to the Pine Barrens and said, this is their territory. You can't get a permit with us until you speak to them and they clear you.
Okay.
So
But they're leading you to believe that should you get our approval, they will approve this project as you propose.
they haven't said one way or the other because they just keep leading us back to you. And they said, once you deal with them, you can come through us to get a permit for this project.
Okay. Thank you.
So, as we don't have the updated survey yet, maybe you could provide some additional details. Where's the barn relative to the house? Is it within close proximity to the house? I understand the clearing, the existing clearing does not extend all the way to where you want to create the arena. So if you could just give us a better description of existing conditions, that would be helpful.
I will tell you honestly, I am terrible at math and numbers, which is funny, some of that tech. So I'll let my husband tell you where it is.
Thank you, guys. So to answer your question, the barn is set back about 130 feet from the house, back of the house. That portion of the land is cleared. The reason why we were not looking to put the riding arena in that location between the barn and the house is due to the fact that the grade of the property is unlevel. It wouldn't be usable for doing the riding. We did look to do that. Without going through extensive efforts, it would be much more work to have gone through that process to do that than to clear in the back area.
So some of the existing cleared area is sloping terrain, making it not conducive to building the arena.
Correct. It would run into, runoff conditions and drainage problems and an issue for our horses in that environment. Yeah.
Is recognizing that some of the existing cleared areas are not that usable or compatible for your purpose. Is there any ability to allow some of those areas to recover to natural vegetation so that in the end you'd have, less, long-term, clearing on this, property?
There would be some ability to do that. Again, it would also, as for your question before, we do need to have an access area to that barn area, and increasing the vegetation would obstruct the ability to have that access way into that area. There could be some areas established that we could look to do some revegetation.
So how wide of, access, way would you need between, barn and the arena?
We would need ability to drive vehicles back
Oh,
there.
okay.
Trailers would have to be able to make
Okay.
complete turns to get the horses in and out of that facility.
Okay.
So it does need to be significant in its size.
So the barn is already permitted by the, town?
Correct. We have a official permit record with the town for a building structure.
Okay, thank you.
You're proposing a 9,600 square foot arena. Why not a 5,000? Why 9,600?
The size of the arena is a regulation size, what horse arenas are typically established. It's an industry standard size
For this type of use or in general?
for both.
Part of what I'm certified in does, it requires the horses to just be free in the arena to do what they do, and they basically, the best way to explain it to you would be they react off of the human. So if I were to use my husband as an example, if he comes in to practice with me as, we'll say, someone having an issue, they're going to react in their natural habitat, be like them free in the arena based off of how he reacts. So if he comes in there like storming in, we need to be able to see that they're gonna either jump back or they're gonna like, oh my gosh, why is this guy walking up to me? And
Right. And then run to another area of that
correct.
to reduce the threat.
Does anyone else have any questions?
So you don't have a drawing at this point in time separate from the survey that shows us the full extent of what's planned?
We do have a marked up survey that was submitted with the building permit, but that's all we have. It's not an official document that was stamped and signed by a land surveyor. It's just a markup for our permit.
Do you have that right now, or is that something you could offer as an exhibit right now?
Yes, this shows where the barn was proposed.
Yeah, I need copies.
The arena wasn't marked up, but we didn't put a permit.
Julie, it'll take 1 second. Can you give it to Deb and she'll make copies for everyone? She's coming right in right now. And the audience, if, Dick wants copies, so she's coming in right now.
It shows the house, but this is all cleared between the house and the barn?
This is where it slopes, yes, and then the barn is there.
So the barn is all the way, back to the clearing limit line, and then.
She's got it. Julie's got it.
Madam
Get
Chair,
about 10 of them.
I'll ask a question too. If I could ask a question, could the applicant state when you purchased the property? What year did you purchase the property?
We purchased the property last year and we closed on it at the end of May.
Were you aware of the Pine Barrens Act when you purchased the property?
Correct, we were.
You were. Is there any reason why, when you planned out the barn, you didn't plan out the riding arena at the same time?
We didn't have any contingencies. We were just going with having the arena put in the back.
Okay, thank you.
Should be right up. Do you have any other questions in the meantime?
Probably by next week.
And there's gonna need to be an extension anyway.
Right.
because
Supervisor Romaine or Dorian, do you have any questions?
No.
Who are you dealing with in the planning department in the town?
Who are they dealing with the planning department in the town?
Yes, his name was Brooks, yes.
Supervisor, did you hear that?
No, I did not.
Brooks, was it Surgan?
Mr. Brooks, yes.
Brooks Surgan.
Do you have an expediter handling this, or you filing the paperwork yourself?
Did you get one of these?
We submitted the paperwork through the
Did
building.
you want one of these?
I did.
You got it.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you heard that, Supervisor. They submitted the paperwork themselves.
Okay, and they submitted it to the planning department? Or the building department?
The building department.
Oh,
We got directed to Brooks, and Brooks told us we cannot help you until you speak to the minor.
It makes sense that a planning department is not gonna review an application and then it gets turned down by the Pine Barrens, right? It's logical to put all that effort, and sometimes it's a coordinated review with Secra, and then we say, no go. So it makes sense, if that's the case, I could see why. And I hope my planning department does the same thing. Don't waste all this time and effort and needing approval of the Pine Barrens, and then it's not approved, and this could be sometimes a lengthy process. Takes a long time, and I have to update the application. So that's, makes sense to me.
So, and I'm pretty sure the town of Riverhead does, right? So Riverhead sends, they do the referral to the town, to the commission.
Yeah,
And that makes sense because, we want certainty and a process that makes sense for the applicant. I just have a couple of questions. So the commission's considering a hardship. So to establish a hardship, there are rules, right? There's criteria, there's a test. And you haven't really spoken to the test yet, and it's a four-part test. I'm sure Julie gave you the elements. Did you want to address those criteria today, or is your application complete on that point?
If you don't mind reviewing those with me, because I was a little scared doing the application, I didn't understand some of them.
Okay, so all I can do is I can read you the questions, and I can't guide you any further than that. So the commission can issue a hardship unless you can demonstrate that for each and every permitted use under the zoning regulations for the particular district where the property is located, which is the A2 district in the town of Brookhaven. Number one, the applicant cannot realize a reasonable return provided that the lack of return is substantial as demonstrated by competent financial evidence. So that's the first test. So you have to bring that down. And I can read the other three, and then you can submit something in writing if you don't want to. We're not going to try to put you on like playing Jeopardy here. We don't want to. It's not a trap. We just want to make sure that you have all the information that you think the commission needs before it can make a decision on your hardship. Right. So for today, what we've heard is I want to have an arena for my horses, and I can't put it between my house and the place where I'm building a barn because the slope is not great, or there's a hill, there's whatever the reason is. So the second test is the alleged hardship. So the hardship, the reason you have to build this arena or clear these trees, it cannot be relating to the property in question is unique and does not apply to a substantial portion of the district or the neighborhood. So that's the second criteria. That's the second bell you have to ring. The requested variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. Now, it's my understanding that all of the property in this area has covenants and restrictions on it based on the town limiting the amount of clearing. All right, so when you bought that property, Julie, am I right on that? So the town, when they approved the subdivision, they said this property can only be cleared to this amount. So then that question, that's sort of relevant to number three. And the fourth is, and this sort of goes to what Andy was talking about, the alleged hardship. Now, the commission has not said that's a determinative factor in and of itself. So even if you bought after the act, after 1993, the commission doesn't say that dooms your application. It's just something they consider. So my non-advice, because I don't want to represent you, is that you provide information for those four things. Otherwise, the commission doesn't have anything in the record to support a determination one way or the other. And again, that's what you have to do and all the applicants have to do. If you feel that you've answered those adequately, you don't have to provide any more information.
Right.
And at the minimum, I would suggest that the commission really can't act until we have some sort of a survey,
That's correct.
right? So,
I agree.
a generalized location on a handwritten, which you're not supposed to do, amendment to an existing survey, that's not acceptable for commission purposes. Even, just so that if the commission's inclined to determine the hardship exists, they're gonna wanna have a map that they can stamp that says, this is what they can do, so everyone can understand what that means. Because it goes to also what Janice was saying, the commission will review to make sure that what was approved occurred. So if the commission does approve this, and I'm not saying they are going to, that they said you could clear 9,600 square feet, which they have not done, that 10,000 feet don't get cleared by accident. So they're gonna want a survey they can measure, and also they're gonna want, if they're inclined to approve it, again, there's no assumption that they will, on the basis of what we have today, they haven't demonstrated hardship. They're gonna want some sort of more than, we're really good people, and we won't allow commercial use here, so that would be some sort of CNR or some restriction in this town. But those are things that would have to be provided at a minimum for this application to even meet the completeness or meaningful review. And I'm not, I just, that's my job.
I understand.
Right, it's just so you know, CNR is covenant restriction. I don't know if you ever heard that term before. You understand that, right?
And that's a promise, it's a legally enforceable promise that says we'll use this property in a certain way. And right now, there's a legally enforceable promise that says this property won't be cleared more than a certain percentage.
Right.
Just a question regarding possible alternatives. In looking at the aerial photograph, it looks like the abutting southerly lot may be larger than the minimum required by zoning. Do you know if there's any ability to entertain a lot line modification in order to annex additional land to your property, thereby lessening the percent of clearing that's needed in order to go forward with this project?
The southern lot to us is owned by another entity. It's not owned by us. I don't know that we could entertain going that route without having to go through a purchase or something like that.
When we first went to submit the application to Pine Barrens, I did learn in my research that the town of Brookhaven did not receive an updated survey from the previous builder that owned the property before our house was built. For whatever reason, that builder did not put the survey in. So Brookhaven looked at me and said, why don't we have an updated survey? And I was like, I don't know. So we went and submitted our survey from our person when we went to build the barn. And that's also why there is no additional survey in the database. So now we have a final survey done as of this week. And I'm happy to get you that survey in the next couple of days if that's what you would need in order to help make this decision to show the barn where we would like the arena to go. I can call the survey guy and see if he can draw something up on that as well. Whatever you need, I'm happy to get it for you. And to answer what you had said before about the hardship criteria, I do believe I filled something out about that. It is in my email. I will have to go back and resubmit it to you.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
My question is, you purchased this property when?
It was last year. We closed in the May and moved in.
You were aware it was in the Pine Barrens, compatible growth.
Right.
And you were aware that there was a covenant on this property in terms of the amount of clearing that could be done.
Correct. And in our purchase of the property,
I mean, and why would you ask us to remove this covenant? Because there's something special about your application as opposed to the other landowners in Matterville?
my wife completed her course for EGALA in April.
I don't feel that there is anything special about us to answer your question. But I also don't feel like we're asking for so much more. We're just asking for like a small percentage more. And I know it's important to keep what's there and to maintain what's there. We're not looking to maintain anything further than just moving slightly.
One last question. Why do you think the town established clearing limits?
For protection of the environment and keeping, what's there.
Thank you.
Do you have a schematic of the proposed arena, anything like a pictorial, anything that we can visualize?
We did provide a marked up copy to Julie as requested. It's not official from a surveyor. It was,
No, an actual pictorial, like what is this arena gonna look like?
it's barren dirt ground. There's no structure. It's not a building. It's a barren dirt ground.
Is it lighted?
No, you're literally looking to just put dirt and a fence in.
How high fence?
It would be about a 4-foot fence.
If you could just finish your thought on the training that you have and your certification and how much education that might require.
Sure. So I'm just mentioning that there was a change in status. My wife had finished her training course in April
Of last year.
of
yes.
last
I
year.
went away for 5 days. I had to do 5 days of training to get this certification. And they require you to fill out, I want to say, you need 3 years at least of course experience to even apply for the certification. And on top of that, you have to do continuing education every year to keep your certification fresh. And every 2 years, you have to go get recertified.
Right. And this was also a change. So when we first went into buying this property, it was actually procured the year before when we went into contract, before she was even certified for her EGALA tours.
But she was in the course with the,
No,
She
well,
was-
we closed last year and she finished in April, but we're saying the
right,
prior.
but she was, you probably bought the property saying maybe we can expand and,
This was, at the time, the EGALA certification wasn't even a thought on the table. It happened after the fact.
oh,
while
you
the
started
agreement-
the studies after that?
Correct. So we had went into contract, it was a year process under a new construction, and then she went and got her certification while the construction was being done, and that's why we decided to build the arena for the golf course therapy. So it wasn't that we were, went into it saying, oh, well, we're only allowed to clear 35%, and we now need an arena. It popped up along the way.
But the arena is, you said, industry standard for the certification or for the therapeutic use?
Training?
It's for both, but typically needing it for the therapy. Again, we started this process in 2021 with buying a house, getting into contract. 2022,
Who's the subject
she
of
gets her
therapy?
certification, we close in
Outside,
2021, we close the certification.
so it is commercial.
We start the process in 2020. So along the way, she got certified, and then we decided to let the paperwork was done.
And so, I'm sort of leading down the road of, can the arena be reduced in size and scale?
So who, I'm sorry.
That was my question.
So, as mentioned, it was, that's an industry standard size to keep this.
To practice, because that's what the point is.
It's for, when he's saying in the equine industry, it is the standard size. Equine in general, that covers riding, that covers EGALA, that covers any kind of equine sport. It's an equine standard, the size. So if we look into lowering it, we could probably think about it and see if we can make that an option. We have to go back and take a look at, how big do we need maximum wise for space? Ideally, we would want the industry size because I need room for those horses to move out of the way. God forbid, my husband's standing in there, a mental therapist is standing in there. I want room for them to get out of the way. Should that horse run us over or kick or do something, that we be in the way for?
Do you have a horse standard in Brookhaven? Like how many horses per acre are permitted? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes, there's the town code, town ordinance of 2 horses per acre.
And who's receiving this therapy?
I practice out of other barns, so it would be out in other barns. It's civilians,
So it's
veterans, alcoholics, anybody
Okay,
who has
so
like a mental
People are coming from the outside, from different entities, and they're being charged, correct?
issue. Not to my property.
She
Okay,
takes her horses somewhere else.
Yes.
And leaves her clients at some other property.
I think what's confusing is in the arena, there's you and there's another individual who's also a professional practitioner of some sort.
Yes, the only
Okay.
other individual that would be allowed on my property would be a mental health therapist, because in order to do my therapy, it has to be me and a mental health therapist.
How do you get the horse to react? You're saying that when an afflicted person is put into the arena, you want to see how the horse reacts. So how are you practicing for that if it's just you and another therapist?
Because I could bring in somebody like my husband, or maybe
Okay.
like another family member that comes over to volunteer to be that person and have them act out in a certain situation. So if he comes in acting out like somebody with PTSD, I need to make sure there is enough room in that arena that he is safe. Because part of my job as an equine specialist is to make sure that he is safe. And my mental therapist is also safe. Her job is to focus on the person and how they're reacting and how they're behaving. My job is to make sure that any person, whether it's him, a volunteer, a mental therapist, whoever steps foot in that arena, they don't get hurt and they're safe.
Do you pay the mental therapist when he or she's in your yard
I do
practicing?
not take her, no.
You mentioned that the existing, cleared area is not, suitable for this arena because it's sloping ground. Is there any ability to regrade that existing cleared area in order to create a level area for the arena, or are the slopes such that that would be very, difficult?
It's so significant grade difference from the house that it's almost impossible to do.
Can I ask, I'm sorry, are you boarding third-party horses in your barn?
I'm boarding one?
Yeah, are you boarding
No, they're
third-party
all
horses?
my own private horses.
Okay. Should either the commission or the town of Brookhaven deny your application, would you then utilize third-party arena services to achieve the same goal?
Sorry, can you reword that?
So I presume there are other arenas, right, in either Brookhaven or Suffolk County, right?
Yes,
So
they're all over.
if the application's not granted, would you be able to go to a third-party location with your mental therapist and conduct the same activity?
I would have to, unfortunately, but there are only so many hours in a day and so much of me, so it would be a better fit to be able to do the practice at my house rather than have to go somewhere else.
It would also incur financial cost on our aspect to
Correct.
rent out and use another facility.
Because any other facility in the area is gonna charge me, and anybody in that area is charging a lot of money. There's a girl right on Dayton, the next road over, and she wants a ridiculous amount for people just to come in and use her arena.
Well,
I'm just, do you have a company that provides this service to people that need it?
My personal company, no, not my personal company. Right now, I work under another facility, as I said, and then my company would be up and coming after this would be done. I would create my own.
Okay, and then would your own company have an employee, which would be the head mental health specialist, or is that person independent
No,
of
she's
you?
independent. She'd be an independent contractor
To who? To whom?
herself. She would work for herself, her own insurance and her own everything. She just did herself.
but you'd be retaining her as an independent contractor, issuing a 1099 to her, correct, for her services?
I would imagine. I'd have to look into that further.
Yeah, you're getting, you know, what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So if a person, I'm sorry, and again, all of this is going to the, so what we're teasing out is is this commercial or is this personal? So it sounds as if there's a commercial component to this application, which is what the commission is trying to tease out. We're trying to pull that apart to figure this out. So if you have a person that works with you and will be hired or retained or some sort of relationship, and then you would be Tommasino Inc., and we are specialists in Utah. Hire us because you're dealing with kids with, whatever, current circumstances, and we appreciate all the work. There's no question about that. But then you would show up with your horse and the other person, and then you would charge the people's house where you are a fee to help them get through their issues using the expertise that you've developed with your partner, the mental health specialist. Is that correct?
I understand what you're saying. It would not be a commercial aspect on my property though, because when she steps on my property, she is choosing to practice with me without being paid, without any form of payment. That's just our time to practice.
But I appreciate that, but if, I'm not sure that, I appreciate that answer, but I'm not sure if you and your colleague are working together to develop your skill set so that you can safely practice at another location.
Mhm.
You're not working together because it's sort of like all of the people in the commission were in their office before this meeting, preparing for this meeting. So they were working while they were at their offices, and then they came here today, and now they're working for the commission today because they're here. So the activity in their office, on however they got to this point, was work, even though they didn't see you and their office, they see you today, but they had prepared in their office. Is that analogy?
I understand your analogy, but
It's more along the lines of continuing education, not so much like we're going on lines of premeditating.
Well, I'm not sure, and we're not gonna spend a ton of time debating this. I'm not sure it's continuing education because you then hire, if it was you and your husband, so it's easy. He's the specialist and you're the horse specialist.
Right.
Then you go and say, here we are, and pay us, and then you get paid and he gets paid. That prep work on your property is part of the business.
But I'm not doing that on my property, is what I'm saying to you. I'm working at a third party barn.
But if you do not do the work on your property, you can't show up on someone else's property and say, here we are, we're experts, we've never worked together, we've never practiced, we don't know how, Nellie's gonna react, but here we are.
A lot of the barns I work with have worked with me for many years because I'm involved in the equine community, so they know me and my horses, so they would know where I'm at. That's what I'm saying to you. Like, your analogy is as simple as kind of
I think
being
we should
like,
just
I'm coming from home.
move
No,
on.
okay. So
Okay.
you haven't answered the question, and I don't know how you can, indicate that when you and your partner are on your property, you're not working together so that you can provide your service elsewhere. Look there. If you want to address that in a writing subsequent to this meeting, please.
Yes, that's, I think it's,
I have no other questions. Thank
all
you.
right.
And so what I'm hearing is that you provided all of the answers that you deem appropriate for the four elements the four bells that I talked about.
Okay.
Yes, those were provided to Julie on the application.
Thank you very much.
Do you mean exhibit H? This one, exhibit H has the letter that you want.
Yes,
Yes, there was only that.
She's gonna have to show up. They already said a guy shows up. I want to make sure that.
Does either Supervisor Romaine or Dorian have any other questions?
No,
Yeah.
So at this point, we will open it up to public comment. Does anyone present in the auditorium want to provide public comment?
yes,
Mr. Amper?
We're just swearing in.
Please raise your hand. Are you going to the microphone? Please raise your right hand. You swear that the testimony you're about to give on the oath will be the truth, the whole truth, and the
good afternoon.
I would want to be sure that,
So for the record, Richard Amper, Long Island Pine Barrens Society.
Yes,
I would want to be sure that before we made any decision on this matter, we looked at least two provisions of law that ran the entire run of the lawsuit where that land use was not to be properly, could not be properly used. So I think we should look and find out what has been done on the site, how the challenge was occurred in terms of what was permissible use and not, and let the courts decide it. And in both cases, these were not approvable projects. I'm sorry, I'm not in any way harmful, I don't know these people personally. I'm simply saying that Brookhaven heard a case remarkably like this twice, and twice the government won the lawsuit saying that this mixed use and not consistent use was inconsistent with the Pine Grounds Protection Act.
thank you.
Is there anyone else on via virtual that would like to provide public comment? Please use the raise your hand feature.
We're losing people.
All right, so then I guess at this point, we would, without anything further, we would close the hearing.
Move to close the hearing.
Second.
I don't know what that was.
The motion to close the hearing by Romaine, second by Dorothy, comment by Judy Jacobson for a comment period. How long?
Right, for 10 days
Then you can take your vote.
to be able to receive written comments. So I would follow up then, that was a motion by Supervisor Romaine.
Yes.
We'll close the hearing. We'll have one other point of clarification. If we could get,
Oh, yes,
because,
I'm
and we'll do
sorry.
that during the hearing. So why don't we, if the resolution could be amended, if they give us an extension to the September meeting, that would be a good thing.
Okay. So I don't know if you've heard that, but could we also, in the motion to close the hearing and leave the record open for 10 days, could we also ask for extension of the decision deadline to the September meeting?
Fine, that's fine. You can add that as part of the resolution, the motion.
Yeah, we need the applicant.
Yeah, then will you,
Is the applicant agreeable to granting an extension to the September meeting
For our decision.
for our decision?
Our preference would be sooner, but if necessary, would allow for something.
Okay, that's a yes. That's a yes.
Okay,
yeah.
all right, so,
A little vague, a lot of things are vague,
all in
yeah.
favor?
Yes, absolutely.
Any opposed?
Okay.
The motion carries unanimously. Okay, thank you very much.
Meeting is closed.